With the kind of tempo teams we play, you just have to have so much depth at corner. But honestly, it's because we didn't tackle as well as we should tackle in the scrimmages, and so I don't know that it's so much a vote of confidence for the safeties as it was we can't tackle the corner. So we'll see how that goes. So we sent a message there. You have to tackle to be able to play.
Coach, you mentioned a week ago that the offensive line was a work in progress. Is it still a work in progress? And how has Davie progressed with the staff?
Yeah, obviously when you take a guy off the field, everyone's invested, and the player himself has invested as much time as Toye Adamo, and he was a center. It causes a lot of unsettledness right now. So, probably if we played today, it'd be Eden Mahina. We are working Tavita Fanua there. He's never really played center before. And then Chris Lewis and Jack Ziltz are kind of in there as the backup guard. So to say it's still a work in progress is an understatement, but we do have some talent, and we do have a heck of a coach at that position. So it's a big challenge. It's also a big opportunity. But it is, by the end of the year, if we can stay healthy, I think we'll be pretty good.
I don't know how you selected captains at Notre Dame or any of that, but have you ever had a walk-on team captain?
I'd have to think back, and I don't really even think of Reese anymore as a walk-on. But yeah, I mean that, and the piece of sophomore Dakota Cox, who was named captain last year, and then really was re-elected captain. And then we have another sophomore captain this year in Lamar Jordan. So this is a unique job here, particularly what we took over. I happened to look. I think we were 4-38 in our last 42 football games before I came here. I think Rocky lost 5 of their last 6 Rockies last year. So we took over something that was 4-38 and actually spiraling downward because of the scholarship. So there's a lot of unique things, and the captain piece of it is part of it as well. Yeah.
Talked a lot about Reese over the past couple of years, but what kind of captain is he having? What does he mean?
He's, I tell you, he's a machine. He is. We call it, he's a guy that constantly looks for work. Every snap, he's looking for work. Meaning he's going to do something a little bit extra and beyond. And he has great feet, he has great suddenness, but most of all, he has unbelievable effort. So when I think of him, I think of looking for work. He just does it naturally. And he's really is. You talk about a great leader just because you put the tape on. It doesn't matter if it's the punt team. It doesn't matter what drill it is. It doesn't matter if it's before practice, during practice, after practice. The guy is unbelievable. And, I don't know what his future holds as far as football. He very may well play his last football game, the last football game we played here. But you ought to take the tape sometimes and just look at some of the subtle things that you might not notice on television or when you're watching a game live. I'd love to send some video clips of Reese White doing things that just are above and beyond. He's really fun to watch.
The NFL's during the preseason, people question whether they should be even playing preseason game stuff. Do you ever think college football needs one preseason game before they get going at all?
I thought about that a lot, JP. I mean, high school football, every high school team scrimmages against somebody else across the country. NFL plays 4 or 5 preseason games, and then you go to college football and you just walk out there, and so much is at stake and so much is on the line from the very first snap of the season. I really would be an advocate of doing that, and keep in mind, it could be us in El Paso doing it if we're not playing it, or us in Arizona, us in Arizona State, us in Colorado. I would like to do it. I think we'd have to control it, make it more of a practice like the NFL does rather than just a scrimmage where we show up and just scrimmage for a couple hours. I'd love to just come out here and do 7-on-7 against somebody else, do inside run, do some special teams things, and control it. We don't have, it's not putting one more game on the kids. I think we could do it in the mindset of an NFL practice where teams practice against each other.
Is that realistic? I mean,
no.
You think?
But I think it's something worth talking about. But we're in a period right now where everything kind of is less when it comes to how much we're asking players to do. But when you talk about a player going out there September 5th all over the country with those live bullets flying, that have never really truly lined up against anybody else, even in a practice situation, I'm not sure that less is the best. Maybe a little bit more to get them to be prepared for that first snap.
going back to the safeties, I guess Daniel Henry is out there where Markel was. You said before that he's one of the better tacklers as well.
Yeah, I think so. You know, again, he hasn't played a lot in games, but we do feel like Daniel Henry and Ryan Santos, from the standpoint of number one, being really smart and being pretty good tacklers. Ryan's really a good tackler if he can stay healthy. So yeah, I mean, we have seen a little bit more of those guys in the game than we have Bijan, even Donnie Duncan to a degree, Nias. You know, so yeah, I mean, we've seen the safeties play and tackle a little bit more. Travis Henry, you know, you just have to put the tape on at Kansas State. We've seen what he's done tackling-wise out here. And then Ricky Bennett and Rothschilder, we've seen a lot of that we can kind of move in there as safeties as well. So, you know, from a tackling standpoint, I think it is fair to say, Rick, we've seen those guys actually get guys on the ground more than we have the corners.
But Travis is just a little bit, even though he played a similar defense, just catching up a little.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's, you know, it's really important to him. And he's frustrated right now because he knows he can play at a much higher level as we do. It's just the combination of all new terminology and then the combination of going against our offense every day. And again, you can't take that for granted because they get into three-back sets. They do some unbalanced lines. It's really foreign to everybody. And he's caught up. He's kind of double whammied right now because of those two things. So him staying positive, him continuing to work at the things we're going to do against the teams we play. You know, we don't play New Mexico. I think that's important, you know, but there's no question there's a bit of a frustration right now.